All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are stepping into an incredibly intense and, frankly, transformative philosophy. We're breaking down the ultimate guide to forging mental toughness, heavily inspired by the legendary samurai Miyamoto Musashi. If you're completely over-relying on fleeting bursts of motivation, and you actually want to build a mind that is unbreakable, well, you're definitely in the right place. Let's get into it.
Think about this quote for a second. There is no enemy more patient than weakness. It waits in the moment before the hesitation. It immediately identifies our true internal enemy. Weakness isn't loud. It's incredibly patient. It just waits for that slight hesitation, that tiny flicker of doubt right before you take action. That microsecond delay between knowing exactly what you need to do and actually doing it, that is the exact space where we break. We're going to learn how to completely close that gap.
To do that, we're mapping out 10 disciplines through a 4-phase transformation. We'll start by acknowledging that the enemy is weakness. Then we move into Phase 1, raw iron, Phase 2, the furnace, Phase 3, the whetstone, and finally, Phase 4, unbreakable.
Starting things off with our first section, the enemy is weakness, the internal battle.
There is such a clear contrast between these two ways of living. The soft wanderer essentially waits for conditions to be perfect. They literally need to feel like doing the work. But the forged warrior? The warrior acts completely regardless of feeling. They follow form, not chaos. If a storm rages around them, or even inside their own mind, they remain completely unmoved.
Moving right along to Phase 1, raw iron, action over emotion.
This brings us to Blade 1, rise without negotiation. You've got to treat your morning as a duel. It's this daily confrontation between who you were yesterday and who you're willing to become today. You don't ask your body if it's ready. You don't sit there consulting your mood. Listen, the sun does not vote before it rises, and honestly, neither should you. You stand and you begin. Period.
Which ties right into Blade 2, Act Beyond Emotion. We absolutely must override our feelings. Emotions are just shifting clouds, right? They're basically just weather. Discipline is the immovable mountain sitting beneath them. You might feel this massive storm of anxiety or exhaustion rising up in your chest, but your hands still have to obey form. The blade cuts because it must, not because it feels like it.
Now we're turning up the heat. Phase 2, the furnace, cane and resistance.
Blade 3 is the absolute core of this phase. Train when you don't want to. Look, anyone, literally anyone, can hit the gym, crush a project, or be super kind when they are fully inspired and perfectly rested. That doesn't count for much. You have to train exactly when your body violently resists and your mind starts lying to you. That relentless, grinding friction when you force yourself forward anyway, that is the literal furnace of growth.
But the furnace is hot, and it's definitely going to hurt. Usually we view pain as this ultimate enemy we need to numb or just run away from. But pain is not weakness. Pain is a mirror. Do not flee. Sit, burn, and rise.
That's the essence of Blade 5, sit with pain. When pain arrives, whether that's physical exhaustion, a brutal rejection, or a massive failure, do not flee. Think of a pine tree in the dead of winter. It doesn't run from the snow, it bears the heavy weight until the storm finally passes. By sitting totally still with your pain, you're actually allowing the fire to carve away all those false excuses until only the real, hardened version of you remains.
Next up, Phase 3, the whetstone, focus and reduction.
A dull blade tries to cut absolutely everything, right? But a sharp blade, it's narrow, it's precise. We do this by cutting the unnecessary, guarding our focus like a fortress, and restraining our daily habits. By stripping away excess and fiercely protecting our attention from all the endless scrolling and noise of the modern world, we start putting a true razor's edge on our minds.
So, diving into Blade 4, cutting the unnecessary. A single tiny little vine can eventually strangle a massive pine tree if it's left unchecked. You really don't need to go out and buy more productivity hacks or desperately seek out more motivation. What you actually need is to ruthlessly cut the distractions that are draining your spirit. Minimalism here isn't just some sleek design choice, it is literally a war against your own weakness.
And that edge has to be maintained everywhere, which brings us to Blade 8. Discipline isn't reserved just for the gym or the boardroom. It's actually found in the quiet rhythms of restraint. Think about it. How do you eat? How do you speak to people? Do you just collapse exhaustedly into bed at night, or do you rest with real intention?
You prove your mastery in the mundane rhythm of your ordinary days, exactly when no one is watching.
Finally, we reach Phase 4, unbreakable, endurance and death. I want you to seriously, brutally ask yourself this question. Would you still do all the hard work if you couldn't post about it online? If no one ever patted you on the back or thanked you? Because Blade 7 demands that we learn how to live, fight, and win completely unseen.
Honestly, the applause of the crowd is nothing more than a golden leash. If you require external validation just to do the right thing, you are essentially owned by the people giving you that validation. True impenetrable power returns to you the moment you become like the stone foundation beneath a mountain shrine. You're holding everything up, completely unseen and totally unbroken by the silence.
This leads us right into Blade 9, which is perhaps the most intense concept we're covering today. Accept death daily. Now, this isn't about morbid despair. Think of the sakura blossom. It blooms fully and then it just falls without clinging. Having death sitting right at your shoulder is a sharp, constant reminder that your time is heavily limited. It completely kills the luxury of saying, "Oh, I'll just do it tomorrow," and it forces you to move with absolute freedom and undeniable force today.
Which brings us to our 10th and final blade. Discipline ultimately boils down to this: holding the line. It's a completely non-negotiable vow to stand your ground in the dark. It means remaining entirely unchanged when the winds of circumstance suddenly shift against you. You do not fold just because you happen to be tired.
Let them fold. Let them drift. You remain. Let the rest of the world build their fragile lives on fleeting passions, passing moods, and absolute comfort. Let them fold the second things get difficult. You've been in the furnace. You are forged to be the one who stands tall when the fire consumes everyone else.
Which leaves us here. After the heat, the hunger, the silence, and the cuts that didn't heal, there is only one incredibly powerful, lingering reckoning you're gonna need to answer. When the storm finally passed, did you remain? Take that question with you today. Keep forging.